Biscuits are one of those things in life that are often forgotten, overlooked, taken for granted, and worse yet, bought at the supermarket. Until you try making a batch yourself at home and you realize how easy they are and how good it feels to do something simple yourself. Biscuit baking is an essential life skill. Here's everything you need to pull a tray of warm, freshly baked biscuits straight out of the oven. But first, you need a bowl full of dry ingredients. The basic recipe calls for 4 cups of white flour, boring old white flour. But you can substitute in some whole wheat flour for some of that white flour. And that way you'll end up with a whole lot more flavor in your biscuits. I typically make mine with 3 cups of white flour and 1 cup of whole wheat flour. Double acting baking powder will give your biscuits lots of lift, and it's called double acting because it's activated by both heat and moisture, by the milk in the biscuits and the heat in the oven. Bottom line, fluffy biscuits. And a couple of teaspoons of salt will really enhance the flavors of the biscuit. Now it's all about evenly distributing the finer powders amongst the coarser ones. The next step is the toughest one, because one of the secrets to fluffy biscuits is working the fat into the flour in such a way that the fat mixes in, but it still stays distinct from the flours. That's a tall order, unless you're using frozen butter. This is one of the single best tricks I have ever come across in a kitchen. This is so much easier than the old-fashioned way of slicing and dicing and cutting fat or lard or butter or whatever into your flour. Just 1 cup. Ultimately, you end up with all these tiny little pockets of butter in your biscuits. The water in the butter bursts into steam and helps raise the biscuits, while the fat in the butter adds lots of flavor, but it also keeps the layers within the biscuit distinct, which also helps the biscuit rise. And 1.5 cups of milk will bring all of these flavors together. It's often said that you should never knead biscuit dough, but I disagree because a little bit of kneading builds a little bit of strength in the dough, and a little bit of strength in the dough also helps make for a fluffier biscuit. Just a couple of folds until all the ingredients come together into one cohesive dough. Just a couple of folds. Just make sure the dough comes together. And you don't need a rolling pin here. All you need are your hands. Form a circle about 1 inch or so thick and about the size of a large dinner plate. You know how biscuits are often cut out into circles and then you gather up the works and roll it out, make more circles? Well, that really toughens the dough. So skip that step altogether and simply cut wedges. You have some options here too because, well, the tops of these biscuits are like a blank canvas, and you can sprinkle a lot of flavors on here. You can add cheese, you can add spices, you can add sugars, egg wash, or honey. Although honey's pretty sticky, so just a splash of oil will help loosen it up a bit. And a good way to balance out this sweetness is with some savory, salt and pepper. This is all optional, of course, but when you make your own biscuits, you get to make your own choices too. Biscuits are best when you bake them at a relatively high temperature, 400 degrees, and in 12 to 15 minutes, you'll be at the Biscuit Awards ceremony with a flavored butter sidekick. Even if you have honey on top of your biscuits, you can still have honey inside the butter that goes inside the biscuits. And just a touch of vanilla here adds lots of aromatic flavor. Honey vanilla butter, best served with freshly baked biscuits. And the award this evening for Best Essential Life Skill, as presented by Chef Michael Smith, goes to these biscuits.